guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled Absolute Hell, Anti-Father Bias in Family Law Needs Reform, a Dad Says. And big shout out to Alex for sending me this article. And guys, this whole article is dealing with Canada and the family court system and how absolutely biased they are against fathers. I mean, the anti-father bias has gotten just completely out of hand. And this particular article is really going to talk about that and how a lot of men are finally speaking out against this and standing up, saying this has gone way too far, that men get raked over the coals, divorce happens, the husband, the father could do everything right in the marriage. Literally, the wife cheats or something like that, and boom, they break up, divorce, and the kids go with her. And he has to accept very lousy terms on many, many levels. And it's just wrong. And it's really unfortunate how things have gone, and we know where a lot of this came from. We know what movement sparked things going in the direction where pretty much the fathers, the men, are the second-class citizens, and it's wrong. And so finally guys are speaking up about this, and hopefully this is the beginning of changing things. And this isn't just here in the United States or Canada. This is all over the world. From what I've gathered, I've been doing this for a while, reading these articles, hearing your personal stories, guys, and it's just gone too far. Is it any wonder that more and more men are just saying, that's it, I'm not getting married, I'm not going to do relationships, I'm done with this stuff, because, especially the marriage, because they know if it goes wrong, which at least here in the U.S., over 60% ends in divorce, that they're going to get the short end of the stick. Why put themselves through that? Not just financially, but also with the kids and things like that. And you're going to see here in this story here, this guy, what the story is mainly about, I mean, he really gets royally screwed over. And that's wrong. So, I'm going to jump into it. Starts off, after going through an expensive court battle seeking to prevent his children from being moved far away, only to fail in the end, Winnipeg father Frank Mayne describes his experience with Canada's family law system as absolute hell. That's a strong statement, and obviously a very warranted statement. It says, Mayne and his wife split up following 14 years of marriage after his wife had an affair with her boss. They co-parented their son and daughter for 2 years, but then the mother and stepfather initiated a legal action to move the children to Seattle, where the stepfather is from. Not cool. He lives in Canada. He was a good father. Husband, she cheated. They ended because of that, and now they're trying to take the kids into another country? Bullshit. But laws are against the guys. He says here, there was no reason to go there for employment. It was only for the selfish, self-centered reasons. And the process was hell. It was just absolute hell, Mayne told the Epoch Times. The lawyers involved were all prolonging their take from the conflict. There was an expert report done, and despite that, recommending the children stay with me, the judge didn't hear anything, Mayne said. The judge clearly was on another planet. Well, these judges, it depends on their personal politics. It could be a whole number of things. It's wrong. And I like how he said that the lawyers involved were all about prolonging their take from the conflict. Translation, the lawyers are dragging out as long as possible to keep the meter running. Mayne, whose name has been changed to protect his family's privacy, says the children were allowed to leave for Seattle with their mother and stepfather, despite his having spent several $100,000 to prevent it. This guy spent several $100,000, Canadian dollars, to keep his kids. So not only is kids are going to a different country with the mother, but he also spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Unbelievable. He says, I'm a very resilient person with happy DNA, but it just about killed me. It was devastating to lose my children, he said. Visits to see his children were scant over the next 2 years, not only because of the distance and expense, but also due to the reluctance of the mother and stepfathers to accommodate such visits. Remember, this is the woman that cheated on him and had an affair with her boss. And now they're moving away, making it as difficult as possible. I mean, and it sounds like the kids are young. What kind of influence is she having on the kids towards him? Oh, your father's the reason we got divorced. There's some very spiteful exes out there. Eventually, Mayne landed a job in Abbotsford, British Columbia, and visits became more frequent. In time, both his daughter and younger son chose to live with Mayne, who has since remarried. Man, this guy remarried after going through all that. Some people never learn. Vancouver lawyer Carrie Lind, who has practiced family law for 49 years, says the family law system is biased against fathers and that men face an uphill battle. The courts still to this day, while things are awful lot better, are gender biased at every turn. There still is a deep-seated bias against dads. There's also a bias in the question of credibility, Lynn said in an interview. Notice in the beginning of this paragraph, they said while things are awfully a lot better. It doesn't sound like things are better to me. What the hell were things like many decades ago? Whenever the father makes a mistake, it is regarded by the court as sufficient to provide less parenting time with the child. Whereas if the mother makes a mistake, it's a mistake. That's a load of crap. It's wrong. I don't know anybody doesn't see this as being wrong here. Lynn said financial hurdles prevent many fathers from obtaining a reasonable outcome. It's expensive to be able to fight as much as you have to, he said. In the early rounds of the year, dads can lose a lot of battles, but if they have the willpower and the finances to carry through to the trial, they'll still win the war. Well, this guy didn't win the war. According to Statistics Canada analysis of 7 provinces and territories in the late 2000s, at least 34% of all active divorce cases dealt with one or more of the 4 issues of access: custody, property, and support. Custody was an issue in at least 39% of the cases, while access was identified in at least 1/3 of divorce cases with an issue. Moreover, divorce cases rarely come to trial. So many men are suffering. Christopher Sarlo, an economics professor at the Nipissing University in North Bay, Ontario, researched the subject after facing custody and support issues following his divorce. In 2014, he penned a paper for the Fraser Institute that gave an unfavorable assessment of the federal child support guidelines. Since then, many fathers have reached out to him with their own stories. Good to hear that. Instead of just sitting there and accepting their fate, men are reaching out to people and trying to get things rolling. It's the only way. He says, over the years, I've heard from really many men who are going through this. So many men are suffering, Sarlo said. There's a lot of pain out there. There's suicide. Men just don't know where to turn. Canada's Divorce Act says child support guidelines shall be based on the principle that spouses have a joint financial obligation to maintain the children of the marriage in accordance with their relative abilities to contribute to the performance of that obligation. But in this paper, Sarlo says those relative abilities are not considered by the child support guidelines, which rely on a number of unrealistic assumptions that make them unfair. Yeah, exactly, unrealistic assumptions. He also said that they are gender biased, noting that they favor mothers at every turn and are punitive to fathers and promote discord and litigation. I gotta tell you guys, in my life now, I'm gonna be 44 in a couple months. I've known people in situations where there's a divorce, the mother gets pretty much it's partial custody, but the kids are with her the majority of the time, and the father is a way better parent than the mother, by and large, and yet she still gets them. It's ridiculous. The Department of Justice, DOJ, well, quite frankly, this should be referred as the Department of Injustice, had 14 formulas for a fair approach to child support under consideration in the 1990s before picking one in 1997. In consultation with social policy and advocacy groups, it chose a formula that assumed the first child added 40% to household costs and each additional child added 30%. Yet economic analysis shows that the 40-30 model was only accurate when both parents had low but identical pre-tax incomes and both remained single after parenting. Other DOJ analysis show that for the most part, single-parent families, the first child adds 25% to the cost, the second child 13%, and the third 15%. A subsequent DOJ report in 2014 showed that mothers won custody in 90% of court-contested cases. 90%. How does anyone not see that as complete BS? Meaning it was the fathers who were most often paying the arguably excessive amounts. You know, it's always funny. Lately, the last couple of years since I started the channel, every now and again you see an article where you have a wealthy spouse, they get a divorce. A lot of times it's been celebrities. And I can't think of some right now, but I'm sure you guys could think of a couple. If it comes to me, I'll mention it, where they get divorced and they end up having to pay the ex-husband, a ton of money because the woman's a singer or actress or whatever, and of course they're playing the world's tiniest violin and singing the blues. How unfair it is that they have to pay their ex, all this money, when every guy out there is laughing his ass off because this is the type of thing that's been happening to guys for so long. Says here, hang on one second, guys. Last year, Sarlo testified in a case in Alberta in which a father challenged the support guidelines on this basis. This particular challenge was brought by a fairly well-to-do individual whose wife divorced him. He said he thought that the way the guidelines were framed were inconsistent with the Divorce Act. Sarlo said the lawyers involved in the challenge have faced an uphill battle. At the Department of Justice level, there's a lot of resistance, and they're fighting every possible way against getting this heard at the highest levels, he said. Imagine that. I think there's a concern by the Department of Justice and many of the folks there that are in charge of the policy there that changes would be seen as offensive to especially women's rights group. There you go. What's offensive about trying to make it fair towards the fathers? I don't see anything offensive about that. But we are in an era now where men are the bad guys, treated like second-class citizens in so many ways. So, I mean, it's unbelievable how bad things have gotten. And it's wrong. And it's a good thing more and more guys are talking about these things. And you don't have to be nasty about it and crude, but you got to speak up. And guys are, and that's good. But these P-word politicians just are afraid of, impacting their constituents, the women's votes, so therefore then they're just backing off. But karma's a bitch, because it can come back to bite them, they get divorced. It says here, multi-generational impacts. Mayne says the family law system needs an overhaul, noting that the way things are done currently has far-reaching negative effects, especially for children. Right, because again, those kids ought to be with their fathers just as much. But instead, they could be with a mother. And don't get me wrong, you can have plenty of good moms out there, but the kids also need their fathers, especially boys. I mean, how many stories you hear about nowadays boys, they're raised in single-parent households, and it's generally the mom. And we all know darn well moms are much easier on boys than they are girls. So the boys grow to be a bit irresponsible and not develop the masculine traits they need to grow up into adulthood to be a strong man. Single moms can certainly love their kids, their boys, take care of them, provide for them, do their best. Sure, I know plenty of that do are cool. You still need a man around and a decent amount of the time to help out and help that boy and also that girl, so that girl doesn't develop nasty habits like daddy issues and stuff like that, which could be very damaging towards relationships for her in the future and her future kids. This is the largest, in this guy's opinion, this is the largest scale of abuse of children going into our country that's enabled by the state. It has devastating multi-generational impacts on people that our society feels every day, he says. But he said the political will to change the system isn't there because leaders are afraid to take on the women's groups and the legal industry. Again, he's reiterating that part. Lynn and Sarlo both believe that federal legislation should make 50-50 shared custody the default outcome if parents break up. Right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we in the era where everything's supposed to be fair and equal? Well, if everything's about equality, as the angry ones of the movement, which I'm now referring to because I literally can't say the word what I'm really thinking, because that's got me some issues with previous videos. That's the thing about the whole movement. Fairness, equality. Okay, well in that case, 50-50 with regards to custody of the kids and all that. But we all know that equality is out the door once it comes to paying for things or having to shovel snow. Immediately upon separation, there should be all kinds of things in place to keep mom and dad close enough together geographically, such that the kids can have half time with both parents. Yeah, in this particular case, when the ex-wife took off to Seattle, to a different country technically, with the kids, not cool. If she wants to move after the kids are 18 legal adults, okay, that's a different ballgame. But when they're kids, and so now he can't see them, that's bullshit. And it isn't just against him; it's also hurting the kids, not being near their father. That should be the default position, and if one parent argues that that should not be the outcome, the obligation is on them to prove it. He says the one-size-fits-all child policy formula is detached from the real needs of the children and too rigid to allow any acknowledgement of the realities of some post-divorce situation. Right. Government loves the one-size-fits-all situation. They come up with their plan, and then that's it. Off you go. It's nonsense. Mayne described Canada's family law system as the elephant in the room when it comes to our society. It's just unconscionable what's happening, he said. We have to change the law to stop this madness that is hurting children and everyone else. Yeah, absolutely. But it just goes to show you guys that guys got to speak out. Guys got to stand up, And even if it feels like it's an uphill battle and they may not get anywhere, by talking about it, by doing things, that at least sets things in motion. So hopefully more and more guys will read articles like this and speak out and take action. Because until you do, things will stay as they are. And it's unfortunate. I mean, that poor guy, he had to pick up and move just so he can be closer, but his kids are in another country. It's bullshit. And how many guys watching this right now have been married and are divorced and got royally screwed over in the divorce process? And I am just talking about assets or money, but I'm talking about just the kids, seeing the kids and all that. It's wrong. So anyway, guys, I thought it'd be a good one to go over. I like to mix things up between news articles and what's going on in the world, things that affect men, and also the great personal stories that you send me, as well as the crazy stories that are quite entertaining. So that'd be a very good one to cover there. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about this. For you guys that are from Canada, especially, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comment sections about the family laws. Let me know your opinion on this. And you guys from Canada have experience in this. By all means, share. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I can read articles, but when I hear from real people about their experiences and things they know happen to others, it really helps us. So by all means, share your experiences, because people read the comments, guys. I get typical video after a while have 1,000 comments. So people read these things that will help out. And of course, I read the comments, and I'm very curious too about the situation, how things are in Canada, and your opinions about that. And also, guys, if you ever come across a great article or story or personal story, as per usual, email it to me. And if it's definitely good, I will do it at some point in the future. But like I said lately, I've been getting bombarded with emails, and I'm grateful for that. Keep them coming. But I can only do so many, I'm doing 2 videos a day a lot of times for this channel. So give me time. I'll get to your story. So, and be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.